All right, guys, what's going on? So I am getting ready. I'm packing the bags, getting ready to head to Arizona, and I started putting my little bow med kit together. I think it's a necessity that just like you have a first aid kit for your body, you should have at least some of the necessities to work on your bow in the field if you need to. Let's go look, see what I have in my little bow med kit, and check this sight tape, make sure we're ready for Arizona. All right, let's start with, a lot of this stuff is just kind of scattered right now because I'm putting this together, but let's start with the case that I'm bringing. This is the UV slider case. It's a nice, case. It kind of looks good, it's double zippered, but it holds all the stuff that I need for my little travel bow med kit. So when I'm traveling, it does have the nice pouch here to put the scope itself into, so that way I can protect that while I'm traveling. But it also serves as a case where I can put all of this stuff in here. And this is kind of the basic necessity, the kind of things that I've put together over the last couple years. Those hunts where you're going out to like New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado. Like for me from North Carolina, I don't really know any bow shops out there, and I don't really know anybody out there. So for me to have the basic stuff that I need to fix things on my bow that I know how to fix, I think that's important. So some of the stuff that I have here, I like, and I think it's a necessity. Some of the stuff may be a little overkill for some people, and I'm sure if there's something that I'm missing in here, drop it down in the comments, because I'm always looking to expand this little smorgasbord of equipment that I have. So in years past, I've always had something like this, just like a little tackle kit with dividers in it, so I can put most of this stuff would fit in here. I'd bring these to like total archery challenges. It'd live in my bow case when I went on a hunt, because I'm not doing a lot of hunting where I'm backpacking in 10, 15 miles deep and I need to carry all this stuff with me. Typically I'm hunting like, 1 to 4 miles from the truck or from the trailhead. So if something were to go wrong, yeah, it sucks. It's a little bit of time to go out there to get it fixed, but it's not the end of the world. I can use that as like a resupply trip. So it's kind of, this is just some of the basic stuff. Most of the stuff just lives in the truck or in my bow case. We'll start with a release. So I always carry a spare release with me, whether 99% of the time this lives in my pack when I'm out hunting, or lives somewhere on my body when I'm out hunting, because if I were to drop my main release, just having this to be able to shoot with if I need to keep the hunt going for the rest of the trip, have to have a spare release. Now, this isn't the one I always shoot. I'm usually shooting the UV button, but I have this one, the Stan Onyx. Works great as a spare release, lives in this case when it's traveling, and then in my pack when I'm out hunting. So I always carry a spare release with me. So some of the problems that I've come into when I've been out hunting is something might come loose, whether it's in travel or whether it's, from hunting, throwing your bow over onto your pack a lot. You get a lot of rattles and stuff. So I like to carry all of the Allen keys that I could possibly need, as I throw them everywhere. These are all the Allen keys that I could possibly need for my bow. Each one of these serves a purpose for something, like this is for the stabilizers, rests, for the bow itself, scope. Like they all hold a purpose for something. You could carry something like an Allen pack with you, but this is just more weight that I don't really need. Yeah, I'm not backpacking a lot of this stuff, but in my pack, sometimes if I'm going in for a couple days, I might carry these in my, I have another little set of these that kind of live in my possibilities pouch that's always in my pack. If you have a Hamskea rest, or most rests nowadays, they're really hard to get to, so you really need these really short little cut Allen keys. So I like to make sure I have these, because if you have an Allen pack and you try to get onto some of those Allens, it's just damn near impossible. So having the little shortcut Allens, I think, is a huge plus. I have all these, and they just live in a little Ziploc bag right into the top of this case right up here. Like I said, I'm getting ready to head to Arizona, so I'm packing this as I talk through it. Another thing that lives in the top here, this is just this is a small parts kit for me. It has some extra things, like a lot of the stuff that came with the UV slider, extra bubble, some extra batteries. I have a couple extra nocks in here, an extra sight tape, a brand new razor blade with the cover on it, some little bolts and pieces in here. It's kind of hard to see, but I carry the little football for the hamski rest. So if mine does come undone and I were to lose it, I have another one where I can retie my rest back in so I'm not out of the hunt. This lives in that top little pouch as well. Pens, Sharpies, like to carry some of these because you never know when you need to mark things. I like to mark all of my stuff ahead of time with this is the bronze Sharpie that I have, but if you have a silver Sharpie, like to mark where your rest is, mark where your sight is, so that way if something does come loose, you have a really quick checkpoint to look at, like, hey, these two lines don't line up anymore. Something came loose or something's off. So having that quick, be able to look at it to make sure to see if anything's off, I think that's a huge plus. It makes it where you're not guessing. And if something does come loose, you can always go back to that line, and 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be close enough where it's not gonna make a difference, or you're not gonna notice it. So having Sharpies, being able to mark things ahead of time and then to be able to mark them in the field if you do have to make an adjustment, have those with you. Loctite, like I said, if you have a bolt that just keeps coming loose and it will not stay tight. I don't like Loctiting a lot of things on bows because a lot of those components are metal and aluminum, and you can get into issues where you can strip it out, but I don't like Loctiting things. But if in a pinch I need to Loctite something, I have some Loctite. In my first aid kit, I typically carry super glue. So this really just lives in the truck, you know, in the bow case. So if I needed to do something afield, I could just take the super glue out of my first aid kit to be able to do any of that gluing. String wax. So I'm not a person who likes to put a lot of string wax on my strings. I very rarely wax my strings. I usually just shoot the snot out of them until they're done and then move on to something else, another set of strings. You guys have seen it on the channel. I change strings like I change underwear sometimes. But what I do like to wax on my bow is that if you were ever going to tie serving material in or tie a D-loop in, I will put a little bit of string wax, or I will rub the serving material over the string wax to kind of get some of that wax on the string. So when you're tying it in, you can really cinch those knots down. And I found that when I use string wax or a beeswax to tie my peeps in or tie any of my knock sets in, that they stay longer. They stay tighter longer. Like, I've never had one that I have used wax on come undone. This also, again, lives at the truck, doesn't usually come with me in the field. So I carry an array of extra broadheads with me. Typically, like I said, on my 5 hunting arrows, I will have broadheads, but I will carry a couple extra of the broadheads that I am shooting, same weight, same size, same everything, with me, and leave them at the truck. So if I do, you know, shoot an arrow, lose it, can't find it, break it, arrow's good, broadhead's ruined because it hits a rock or something, I have an extra one with me, so I'm not down a broadhead. I can always have 5 good sharp broadheads in my quiver. So I always carry a couple extra of them, whether I use them or not. They just live in this pouch. On top of that, I'm also carrying one in here that is strictly just my practice head. I don't use this broadhead to hunt with at all. It's the same one, but with the sever, it comes with like a practice mode. It comes with a set screw that you can screw into the ferrule itself, and it locks the blades in. So it's just like shooting your regular mechanical head, but it won't open up when you hit a target. So I have this screwed in. This is my practice head. This is the one I do all my sighting in with, all my broadhead tuning with these arrows. But I have this to make sure so that way when I get to camp or when I get to the hunting spot I'm going to go to, if we have a target to shoot, I'll screw this onto one of my arrows and shoot it to make sure the broadhead is hitting where it's supposed to. And in this box, I have a couple field points because if you've ever come back to camp, middle of the day, you know, you kind of want to just kick it with everybody and shoot some arrows. Sitting there shooting your broadheads is probably not the smartest thing you're going to do, especially if you know they're tuned and they're hitting where they need to, and you're just out there just kind of staying fresh, you know, wasting a little time during the day. Screw some field points in. Shoot the target. Don't go kill your broadheads shooting them into foam all day. Put a couple field points in, shoot them in, especially if you know that your bow's tuned and everything's hitting where it's supposed to. It's better, in my opinion, to shoot those instead of all your broadheads. All right, a couple things that I have come across, and I've actually used this stuff before with me. At TAC a couple years ago, you guys have probably seen the video, I'll input it here now. I dropped my bow, and nothing happened to the bow, but when the bow hit the ground, it hit on the side of the sight and knocked third axis out a little bit. If you've ever been out west hunting to a total archery challenge, shooting out of a tree stand, you understand how important third axis can be. So if your third axis is out and you start, you know, shooting all these uphill and downhill shots, you're gonna start missing left and right if your third axis is not plumb where it's supposed to be. So having a way to check your third axis if you were to drop your bow during your hunt, at a total archery challenge, whatever it may be, having a way to check that is gonna be key. So for me, I carry this Hamskea third axis 2nd gen tool. I've actually used this, like I said, at the hotel after I dropped my bow at TAC. I was able to put this onto the site and use a door frame to put my third axis back in. Now, I wasn't that far out, but I was still far enough out where I started missing a little left and right on some of those longer shots, especially on the uphills and downhills. So having a way, just again, this doesn't come with me into the field, but it will live in my truck. All right, some other cool things that I came across this year that I just started carrying with me once I got them. I met this guy, Jonathan, at Total Archery Challenge. He owns a Speed Goat Archery. Now, Speed Goat Archery, they make a lot of really cool things for like the backpack hunter, the guy traveling, the guy who doesn't want to carry, you know, the big bulky stock original stuff. For example, D-loop pliers. Like, do I want to carry these with me? Did they take up a lot of room when I was carrying something like this small case? Absolutely. But if I wanted to tie a D-loop in and I wanted to be able to cinch it down, I didn't really have a way up until, you know, Jonathan introduced me to his little kit here. So what he has is this is a little backpack, super lightweight D-loop puller. You know, something were to go wrong and you had to redo your center serving while you're out in the field, like carrying a whole spool and, you know, jig like this, it's kind of tough to get into the pack. All of a sudden your toolbox starts getting bigger and bigger. And like I said, for me, traveling, someone who does a lot of flying, space is very important to me when I'm packing all my stuff in my bow case. So if my little pouch goes from this big to, you know, this big, like to like a little Yeti or like a full toolbox kind of thing, I'm running out of space to carry other things like other gear that I actually need versus things that I might need or would like to carry with me if something were to go wrong. This is a little tiny serving jig. This thing is absolutely tiny, fits in the palm of your hand, and it's just as big as you need it. Now, I'm not gonna be doing a ton of bows, you know, using this serving jig, but if I were to need to use something, this is better than absolutely nothing. And on top of it, he included 2 little spools of serving material for me. I have Halo .014 and Power Grip .0118. So having these with me, this is also the serving material that I would use to tie knock sets in, tie my peep in, any kind of that little stuff that I would maybe need serving material for, I have it. And this is plenty enough to do center serving on a bow or 2 if you needed to. Speed Goat Archery, I think he's making some really cool stuff, especially if you're someone like backpacking or someone like me where space is valuable to me in my little kit. So having small stuff like this, but then having the option to be able to do that back at the truck, awesome. Now, if you're gonna be doing D-loops and everything, you're gonna need a lighter to burn those ends. Lighters, hunters, like I have probably 3 of these with me when I'm hunting. 1 at the truck, 1 in a bow med kit, and then another one that's going to be in my backpack. So I always seem to have these little Bic lighters, tiny, they don't take up any space, they work well, they're pretty reliable. So that, again, will live in this little case. In the past, I've always carried like a little bit of D-loop material like this, just to tie a D-loop on if I needed one. But I think more importantly, having enough cord to tie a new rest cord in is super important. Really cool little spools right here, and this fits enough enough D-loop material to do 1 whole drop away rest and probably tie on like 3 or 4 D-loops. They're reusable, so you can always just pop that D-loop material out, spool it back up with some new stuff. But having a nice little compact, you know, case to hold it in, dude, awesome. Because before, this used to just kind of willy-nilly float around in this little tote. But having something nice and super compact, lightweight to be able to put your stuff in, I think is awesome. So for a little travel bow kit of the possibilities, the things that you could need while you're out in the field hunting, things that you could use to keep you at field hunting, having a little kit like this that's going to live in my bow case, live at the truck, where if I were to have any issues, I can pull this out and be able to, you know, service my bow and not have to drive 2 hours or an hour or however far to a bow shop. That's important to me. All right, thanks for watching this video, guys. If there is something in this pouch that you think is overkill, Jeff, you don't need that. Or if you think there's something that I am absolutely missing that is a necessity that I need to put in here, drop it in the comments down below. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned. We'll see you guys on the next video.